and constitutes a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the microphones are very sensitive and will pick up noise which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized to speak, please unmute your microphone and connect your video. Members may make use of the icons in the bar at the bottom of their screens, which has an option that allows a member to put up his or her hand to raise points of order. The Secretariat will assist in alerting anybody as members are requested to speak. When using the virtual system, please refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order. We shall now proceed to the order of the day. I now recognize the Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister of Social Development. Honorable Minister, you are invited to address the mini plenary.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. A very good morning to you in particular and to all members of Parliament, but also a very good morning to all South Africans who are currently watching the channel of Parliament. Deputy Minister of Social Development, Henrietta Bokopane-Zulu, MECs for Social Development joining us on social media platforms, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, siyanibingelela nonke. As we come back to Parliament to present 2021-22 Budget Vote 17 of the Department of Social Development, we note that today marks 1 year, 2 months and 20 days since South Africa's first positive case of the coronavirus disease of 2020, COVID-19, was confirmed. Every moment since then has been unfolding of unprecedented and seismic financial and social impacts. This period presented us with difficulties, yes, but it also presented us with opportunities to learn from each other, establish best practices, and improve our institutional capacities and systems. Faced with the unprecedented impact of COVID-19, and as part of government-wide reprioritization, the department has had to amend the priorities that we presented to the House in 2020. This was done in order to refocus our programmatic support to the government-led response and fight against COVID-19 and its socio-economic impacts. Accompanying this was the announcement of government's 5 responsive priorities by President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa during the State of the Nation address, as we must defeat the coronavirus pandemic, accelerate our economic recovery, implement economic reforms to create sustainable jobs and drive inclusive growth, and fight corruption and strengthen the capacity of the state. And this must be at the center of our work, strengthening the capacity of the state. Accordingly, and with the heightened appreciation that the delivery of the budget vote constitute a contract between government and the public, the department's 2021-22 budget vote is framed within the priorities that the President directed us towards. In the same light, we expect that citizens also take responsibility by becoming resilient to enable them to acquire the necessary skills which would enable them to contribute towards economic development. The balanced rights and responsibilities approach is indispensable to building a productive, caring, and sustainable society. House Chair, it is my pleasure to table Budget Vote 17 of the Department of Social Development for the 2021-22 financial year to this House. The department's overall allocated budget amounts just over 205 billion rands for 2021-22 financial year. This is a reduction of 6.5 billion from the initial allocation of 2020-21 MTSF, which will culminate into cumulative reduction of 38.5 billion rand over the 3 years. It is a pain, but it's something that we have to go through. From this annual allocation, the department has allocated 195.516 billion towards monthly payment of 18 million social grants to beneficiaries. This constitutes nearly 95% of the annual budget for 2021-22 financial year. The remaining 5% goes towards the implementation of all the department's programs, including the allocation towards administration of the social grant, SASSA, and the programs of the National Development Agency, NDA. The social assistance programs continue to be South Africa's largest anti-poverty program, paying more than 18 million grants every month. For its administration, SASSA will receive a total of 7,446,901 rand to efficiently and effectively manage, administer, and pay social assistance in line with the South African Social Security Act number 9 of 2004. To this end, during the current financial year, SASSA has committed its allocation towards 4 areas, namely reducing levels of poverty among South Africans, contributing to economic transformation through the empowerment of individuals, and contributing towards the creation of conditions wherein communities can be sustainable, improving beneficiary experiences with SASSA, and lastly, enhancing SASSA's efficiencies. Key to SASSA's programs will be its investment towards improving its grant application and payment system. Some of SASSA's key interventions include implementing a digital transformation program, business process re-engineering, implementing anti-fraud strategies, and strengthening SASSA's capacity to deliver its mandate. Included in the department's allocation is the provision for the Early Childhood Development ECD program in order to increase the accessibility of ECD services to all communities. The department will continue to subsidize children from poor households. To this end, an amount of 1.56 billion has been allocated as part of the ECD conditional grant for the 2021-22 financial year. The department remains committed to funding non-profit organizations, which we call NPOs, in their role as an extension of delivery arm of our social development services. Whereas 33 million has been allocated to support NPOs at our level, that means national, the lion's share of funding for the NPO sector, more than 7 billion, resides with the provinces. And Chairperson, I do want to indicate that I've raised the issue of the value for that money that is sent to the provinces, and the value of that money must be seen in the programs that are implemented by these NPOs. And these organizations provide, among others, services for prevention, care, and support of victims of gender-based violence and femicide, social crime prevention services, the eradication of substance abuse, care and support to older persons, and the protection of children, and building cohesive, resilient families within communities. The department has improved its funding model to these NPOs by implementing a 3-year contract cycle that has improved efficiencies and created stability in the sector. The new funding cycle started on the 1st of April 2021 and will end on the 31st of March 2024. The department and provinces rely on the cold-faced role of the presence of social service professionals in our communities for the implementation of our integrated responses to the wicked problems we face as a nation. On the backdrop of the demanding scope and roles that social service professionals are performing, the department should, as provided in the Social Service Professions Act 110 of 1978, work towards institutionalizing the funding of the SACSSP within the budget appropriation framework. 215 million rand will be transferred to the National Development Agency in 2021 financial year to advance their civil society organizations' developmental agenda. In terms of the National Development Agency Act, 108 of 1988. The primary objective of the NDA is to contribute towards eradication of poverty and its causes by granting funds to CSOs. And I have indicated, honorable members, to the National Development Agency that it is important for it to look for more funding, look at increasing in terms of developmental agenda. The areas I have just elaborated constitute 99% of the department's major cost drivers through transfer payments. During this financial year, the department will focus on the amendments that are necessary on the following pieces of legislation. One, the Children's Amendment Bill, which is currently at public consultation stage and seeks to strengthen child protection services. Two, the Older Persons Bill, which aims to strengthen the coordination and monitoring mechanism of the services that are rendered to older persons. And third, the Fundraising Amendment Bill, through which we seek to consolidate the various relief funds into one National Social Development and Relief Fund. And this we are doing also out of the experience that we've had since we came into this department. Focus areas for 2021-22, with the objective of improving the linkages between ECD outcomes with the universe of our educational and human development outcomes. We will be finalizing the migration of the ECD function from the Department of Social Development to the Department of Basic Education, and there is no contradiction, no confusion in there. With the intentions to contribute towards the development of resilient families and communities, we will be implementing social behavioral change programs, especially on HIV and AIDS, and we will also use the experience we've had during COVID-19, where we focus on behavioral change from a perspective of ensuring that people adhere to the strict conditions of COVID-19. We're looking at expanding that so that we can look at broadly the social behavior and the changes that we need to do, working together with other departments. We will be taking the green paper on comprehensive social security reforms, the white paper on families, as well as white paper on social development through public consultation processes. And we will be calling on our communities to take time to look at it and make the necessary contributions. In our continued efforts for social work graduates to be absorbed into the economy, the department will canvass other government departments and private sector for them to engage their services towards addressing social ills within our communities. Strengthen the reach of our substance and alcohol abuse prevention programs through conducting public awareness campaigns and outreach partnership with educational institutions in partnership with the Drug Central Authority Board. Within the context of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, we will strengthen our prevention and response mechanism to reduce the spread of gender-based violence and femicide. This is what we believe as a Department of Social Development we need to focus on: prevention, prevention, prevention. Through promoting and fostering coordination among key stakeholders, we will jointly implement an integrated social crime prevention strategy, and of course, working with all the other relevant departments. We will be strengthening our child protection services, including areas such as adoption, care and protection, foster care, and the protection of the rights of children. We will continue to improve access to NPO registration services through online registration system, which is being enhanced to interface with various systems across the state. We will not continue to support NPOs that are not registering, because as we are supposed to be held accountable, they also have to be held accountable. We will improve access to food and nutrition through the implementation of the National Household Food and Nutrition Plan. Towards ensuring inclusive economic participation, we are going to advance our plans to empower cooperatives and social enterprises that are owned by Black women, people with disability, and youth. And this is a program that we would like to see working together with the Department of Small Business Development, so that the strengthening of cooperatives and the strengthening of Black-owned businesses are in place. We will be finalizing the policy on basic income grant for tabling to cabinet. And at this point, I actually do want to thank members of parliament from different political parties who have supported us in terms of the basic income grant. We will usher in the inspectorate in line with Social Assistance Act. We will also strengthen our role in leading international organizations such as the Partners in Population, which is aligned to our South-South cooperation. On that note, the department will host a national conference on migration and urbanization to share information and knowledge on migration and urbanization in South Africa as it relates to the Department of Social Development. Regarding efficiencies, innovations as a response to the budget cuts, the budget took cue from Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Tito Mboweni, when he said, and I quote, getting our fiscal house in order, continuing on the path of fiscal consolidation and implementing fiscal prudence, close quotes. The reality of budget cuts and government-wide reprioritization across the MTEF demands that the department, its entities, provincial departments, and social sector as a whole should establish new efficiencies which our social services can be improved and made accessible. Among these, we would explore resources sharing frameworks and inculcate the culture of innovation through our sector. This will assist to supplement the capacity of the department during these times of resource constraints. In doing all the above, we will ensure that we put in place strong control measures to avoid irregular, fruitless, and wasteful, and eliminate any form of corruption. With regard to who we're servicing, during the 2021 financial year, the department and its entities, SASSA and NDA, and the South African Council for Social Service, SACSSP, carried out the implementation of government socially responsive interventions that entail the provision of food and nutrition for the hungry and needy, the novel implementation of COVID-19 social relief of distress SRD grant for the unemployed, increasing all existing grants by 250 rand per month, except for the child grant, and we'll continue to fight for this one, increasing the child support grant by 300 rands per child, introducing 500 rand caregiver grant, and rendering a bouquet of welfare services ranging from psychosocial support to social behavioral change programs. Through these interventions, Honorable Chair, in the past year, we reached more than 31 million South Africans. That only representing more than half of South Africa's population. This figure variably represents how the department has attended to the basic necessities of the most vulnerable amongst us. 88% of the respondents to the department study on the implementation and impact of the COVID-19 SRD grant indicated that they put their SRD grants together with the rest of their household's incomes to take care of the needs of everyone in the household. This analysis is supported by the findings of the National Income Dynamics Survey, which estimates that 36 million benefited from the SCG caregiver grant and the COVID-19 SRD 350 grant alone. The NIDS CREM also found that CSG caregiver grant and the COVID-19 grant were amongst the largest poverty reduction measures that government implemented during this period. To support these findings, in March 2020, the South African Towards Inclusive Economic Development established that the number of households that lived below the food poverty line of 561 rand measures that the department implemented, this figure came down to 18.8%. Otherwise, in the absence of these interventions, it would have grown to 32.1%. Over the same period, inequalities were reduced from 0.64 to 0.61. Whereas South Africa could not register these achievements in more than 25 years, our COVID-19 interventions shifted us into unprecedented grounds and greater future possibilities. And I'm hoping that the department, not only the department, but government in general, will take into consideration the lessons that we have learned here and be able to make the changes that are necessary to make it easy for us to deliver to our people. Our contributions to the Interministerial Committee on COVID-19 Vaccination Rollout Program will ensure that we help identify qualifying vaccination candidates from our database and render the relevant psychosocial support. We are pleased with the rollout of phase 2 of the mass vaccination program that is currently underway and the positive uptake of the vaccines, especially by our elder persons. Modula Stulo, le maluku ao a hlomphegagong, ke rata gore go tseya sebaka se go dira boipiletso go maAfrika Borwa ka bophara gore ba re thuse how ngwadisa bagolo ba rena so that they can be able to get the vaccine as quickly as possible. Chairperson, today we speak on Africa Day, and exactly 50 years ago today, in 1963, 32 eminent leaders of our continent gathered in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia to chart a new course for Africa and her people, of course, coming out of colonialism that have continued to make our life miserable even today. We as social development believe that our work is about the well-being of all citizens, and the same should be true for citizens of the African continent. It is with shock that we learned of the humanitarian disaster that has befallen the communities who live near the town of Goma in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We trust that the humanitarian response and systems across the continent will be afforded to the affected people of the DRC. And at this point in time, it's important for us as South Africans also to mobilize and motivate and see where we can be able to be of assistance to them. Chairperson, honorable members, we are celebrating 150 years of the courageous life and pioneering spirit of Umam Charlotte Maxege, an intellectual, qualified social worker, a diplomat, and of course, a freedom fighter. It is her who invited us to implement socially beneficial social development programs when she said, and I quote, "This work is not for yourselves. Kill that spirit of self and do not live above the people, but live with them. And if you can rise, bring someone with you," unquote. In acknowledging her epic role, I'm equally paying tribute to the past, present, and future generations of South African women, South Africa's women, ngoba intandane enhle ngumakhotwa ngunina. Child Protection Week, from Sunday, the 30th of June to the 30th of May to the 6th of June, 2021, the department will be leading the commemoration of the National Child Protection Week. In so doing, we will be raising awareness of the rights of children as articulated in the Constitution. As we lead this commemorative campaign, we do so in collaboration with key government departments and in partnership with civil society organizations in the area of child protection. We call upon all South Africans to stop the cycle of neglect, abuse, violence, and exploitation that children suffer. The district centered development model. This is a model which we hope will be able to be implemented by us, will be used by the Department of Social Development as well as all other government departments. And in particular, the provinces will help us in ensuring that this district-centered development model works. In view of the growing COVID-19 induced plight among fellow South Africans, the Council of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres that said, and I quote, "It's clear that some are in super yachts while others are clinging to the floating debris," unquote, remains relevant because of the soaring levels of hunger, inequality, poverty, and unemployment in our communities. These perennial challenges are demand that we ought to target and deliver our social development programs through strengthening intergovernmental relation mechanisms. While we continuously improve our programs, monitoring and evaluation, we have regularized our program planning and reporting together with provinces. Consequently, we are very hopeful that the district-centered development model approach to deliver services will particularly strengthen the work that we carry out together with provinces in different communities. In practicalizing the district-centered development model, alongside the people's public, private, civic, academic, multilateral partnership, we are assured that the social development sector will strengthen the capacity of the state and leave no one behind in our communities as we implement our COVID-19 fighting programs. There are 350, lelo the city, Masisho city, 350 ubexosha ikati ezinko. The COVID-19 SRD grant has benefited 6.5 million unemployed and incomeless individuals. One of the beneficiaries of this grant is Sonto Sithole of Don Park in Gauteng. With her monthly 350 grant, she started a baking business in her community. When asked what her intentions were in receiving the COVID-19 SRD grant, she responded by saying, and I quote, "I wanted to create longevity with this grant, and I'm glad I started," unquote. There are several similar reports in different communities throughout the country, and their instinctive attitude towards self-sustainability should be promoted. Some people might have thought that 350 is like change, but for women like Sonto and a whole range of others, they've used the 350 to make money out of the 350 so that they can be able to take care of their families. The rapid assessment study that we initiated on the implementation and utilization of COVID-19 SRD grant monies is nearing completion, and its findings and recommendations will be shared with the honorable members. Preliminarily, we expect that these will be relevant for the discussion that we are having on the basic income grant, BIG. In that study established that the implementation of COVID-19 SRD grant did play a major role in the reduction of hunger, poverty across the country. And now, when it comes to the basic income grant itself, I know that there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot about where's the money going to come from and what are we going to do about it. The need to introduce the basic income grant has become an urgent consideration for the African National Congress-led government. To this end, the department has developed a basic income grant discussion document that we have started for consultation. These consultations are targeted at developing the big financing mechanism for the unemployed population group that is aged between 19 and 15 years, between the ages of 19 and 59 years. Meanwhile, the department continues to contributing to a supplementary big process by NEDLEC. We thank the various political parties and the different formations that have come forth in supporting the reopening of the big initiative. With regard to gender-based violence and femicide, which I did indicate, spoke to earlier on, the department continues to play a central role towards the eradication of the South Africa's legacy pandemic, gender-based violence and femicide. In order to accelerate the work we are doing in this area, we believe that all individuals, house by house, street by street, from community to community and society at large should play a part. During this financial year, we will be asking Cabinet to approve the gazetting of the Victim Support Bill. This bill specifically addresses the lack of legislation that regulates the victim empowerment services. I wish to also thank at this point in time all the organizations that have gone out there to support us with regard to this fight. We also have another program, the nutrition and food provision. 8.4 million people benefited from this distribution of our nutrition food parcels during the year 2021 and the year 2021. And also with regard to the non-profit organizations, I think I've made the indication that the need for dynamic society-wide partnership is evident in the fact that during the past financial year, the department received a significantly high number of applications with regard to NPOs. With regard to youth, I believe that the future belongs to young people. And I don't think we should use this as a way of just talking. We must use it for real and empower young people. And with regard to partnerships, I believe that precisely because of our economic recovery is lagging behind those of other comparable countries, we are advised that our economy is unlikely to attain the 2019 output levels before 2023. For this reason, we reiterate our call for the mobilization of dynamic people-public partnership so that we can then be able to service our people. Lastly, I'm pleased to announce the publication of our second social budget bulletin, which is a tool pioneered by the International Labour Organization to provide an ongoing statistical reporting mechanism for all social expenditure and revenue sources, explicit and transparent. In this publication, we provide comprehensive assessment of the quality of and performance of social security expenditure and revenue over a period of 10 years in order to inform future policy making and budget allocation. The second bulletin, together with the inaugural bulletin, can be accessed on the department's website at www.dsc.gov.za under new conditions. And as I conclude, please allow me to thank the Deputy Minister, Henrietta Bokopane Zulu, for positive working relation with which we continue to strengthen the delivery of social development mandate. I also thank the Acting Director General, Mr. Linton Mkunu, and his management team, the Chief Executive Officers of SASSA and NDA, Ma'am Doti Memela Kambula and Ma'am Tamom Zobe, respectfully, and their management teams, the Registrar of the South African Council for Social Service Professions, Langi Malamba, the ministry team, our social partners, and importantly, all social service professionals throughout the country. I also wish to thank my family where they are, thank them for the support that they continue to give me, despite all the challenges that we face. I know I get out of the house and they're looking at me and thinking, there she goes, she's gonna bring back the COVID because she's almost everywhere. A special thank goes to the African National Congress, my organization that has enabled me to go this far and be able to make the presentation I'm making today. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much, people at home.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I now call upon the Honorable Gungubela from the African National Congress. Honorable Gungubela, your time starts now.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable, I beg your pardon. Honorable Chairperson, or Minister and Deputy Minister, members of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, members of Parliament, of the public, all protocols observed. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome such a well-enriched speech and a presentation by the Minister. Honorable Chairperson, it will be remiss of me not to, as per usual, refer and anchor my speech on the bedrock which lays the foundation that characterizes the relationship that we have with the social development portfolio. This bedrock is founded on our commitment to social transformation, our task to reduce poverty and promote social integration, our partnership and Atupili principles of service delivery, our actions based on solidarity and promoting self-reliance and commitment to human development. Honorable members, the ANC 2019 National Election Manifesto made a firm commitment to advance social transformation and in our context, maintain and expand our social security system to protect the vulnerable and reduce poverty. To achieve this, the committee has adopted a scientific approach to its oversight responsibility, where we have a productive relationship with the department. This means that the work of the social development portfolio must be based on evidence and the theory of change. Through this portfolio, we must be able to see tangible change in the lives of the people, communities, and sectors that it is serving. This change must be underpinned by the indicators that form the bedrock of our relationship. Honorable Chairperson, when we talk about evidence-based theory and the theory of change, we aren't talking about foreign issues. We're talking about how this portfolio is able to drive its mandate through the vote. There must be alignment in the work that they do and the change that we see in the lives of those that are beneficiaries of this mandate. The portfolio is central to the advancement of human development. This is why advancing a developmental social welfare is key to advancing social transformation. We will, Honorable Chair, continuously assess the impact that developmental social welfare is making to human development and unlocking human capabilities. Honorable Chair, honorable members, the department's budget and annual performance plan is tabled against a continued financially ailing economy and the COVID-19 has not made these things easy. As a result, the entire portfolio has been in the front line and has ensured that there is provision of comprehensive socio-economic support to those that have been severely affected by the pandemic. It used its resources through reprioritization and adjustments to find this support. The portfolio has, through various commendable interventions, been able to put in social safety nets for the poor and the vulnerable, which include those that have been tremendously impacted by COVID-19. One of these interventions has been through disbursement of additional social grants for COVID-19 pandemic. An additional 32.8 billion was allocated for this intervention for 2020-21 financial year. Noteworthy, Honorable Chair, is the additional 2.8 billion which was allocated in 2021 to accommodate for extension of social COVID-19 SRD grant. As the SRD grant has come to an end, we commend the efforts of the department to encourage Treasury for its extension. We will be keeping a keen eye on the development of these engagements. An impact study conducted by the department has revealed that SRD grant has had a significant impact on the lives of our people. This impact study was additionally supported by the work of academic researchers, National Treasury, and other government departments, which revealed similar outcomes. This has strengthened the motivation for the extension of this grant. We have had ongoing discussions with the department on the possibilities of implementing food vouchers. The department has indicated that it has engaged provinces and agreed to implement food vouchers. 2 provinces have already implemented this voucher system. We'll monitor this implementation during this current year, Honorable Chair. The Social Grants Administration and Social Grant Fraud, my apology. This has strengthened the motivation for the extension of this grant. The Social Grants Administration and Social Grant Fraud Investigation Sub-Programs budget allocations have declined. This is a concern because this will affect the budget transfer to SASSA. This could make it challenging for SASSA to optimally perform its duties. However, Honorable Chair, there is an increase to the appeals adjudication sub-programs, which is commendable. This is because the department plans to reduce the time it takes for SASSA appeals. My apology, Honorable Chair. My gadget is messing me up. This is notwithstanding the increasing levels of poverty and hunger, which are increasingly visible in child malnutrition and stunting. Honorable members, the ANC government has emphasized the significance of early childhood development, ECD, for human and socio-economic development. It has committed to ensuring that there is migration of ECD services from social development to the Department of Basic Education. The ECD grant is the only grant that is allocated to the department. This is to support government reprioritization of ECD as envisioned by the National Development Plan. The grant aims to improve poor children's access to ECD programs and ensure that the ECD centers have adequate infrastructure. We are not only concerned about the lack of visibility of the NDA, but also on the annual decline of its budget. The mandate of the NDA is significant to the life and operation of the civil society organization. It provides grants to civil society organizations to implement sustainable community-driven projects that address food security and creates employment and income opportunities. We applaud the work that has been done to clear the backlog on the issuing of non-profit organization registration certification. We are at the same time concerned about the impact of budget reduction on the funding of NPOs. The department will be conducting an impact assessment of the budget reduction and thereafter identify interventions that would need to be implemented. We also ask that They investigate non-payment, late payment, or cash to subsidy cuts to NPOs who provide vital services on behalf of the state and give us an implementation report. Honorable Chairperson, the committee has noted that even though the performance of the department is improving, the AG's report on the status of controls for 2019-20 have revealed different trends. We find this to be concerning. The department has indicated that it has engaged the Office of the AG, particularly focusing on the area of oversight. It also has indicated that it has strengthened its entity oversight. It has also taken a number of measures to address the AG's findings, including factoring the performance. It has also committed to significantly reduce the fruitless expenditure. We have also reiterated our concern over the escalating fraud and corruption in the payment of social grants, particularly fraudulent activities in the SAPO-SASSA card system. SASSA has confirmed that there is going to be a reissue of cards in collaboration with South African Reserve Bank. SASSA has further committed to recovering all the money paid to government employees. It is also still conducting investigation. SASSA is also engaging the DST and what action should be taken against those implicated. It will also engage with the department officials work to exploit, I beg your pardon, to explore disciplinary actions to be taken. The minister should ensure that during the current financial year, the department addresses the AG's finding on the status of controls. The minister should also ensure that within the current financial year, the department conduct and prioritizes an impact study on the implications and impact of budget reductions over the medium-term period and development interventions. Particular focus should be on ensuring that service delivery and social assistance programs are not adversely impacted. SASSA must strengthen its monitoring system in the payment of social grant to ensure that there is a preventative mechanism that will give early warnings of ineligible beneficiaries receiving grants. This includes implementation of domestic system of biometric system and efficient and speedy validation process of ID numbers from SAPO payment file. Honorable members, we reaffirm our confidence in the entire portfolio ability to progressively address and respond to the strategy issues that we have raised. The work that we are putting in will progressively translate into measurable and tangible outputs that will qualitatively improve the lives of our people. This is being done through the turnaround measures that we are putting in place that ensure that the department applies evidence-based and results-based approach. We will ensure that it advances social transformation through maintaining and expanding the social security system.
Honorable
We therefore ask the House to adopt the budget allocation for the budget for 19. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now call upon Honorable Masango from the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Today's debate is about the difference between the presentations from the Department of Social Development and its entities that we listened to during the Portfolio Committee meeting and the stark reality faced by millions on the ground, those whose livelihoods are at the bottom of the pile of both government and the Department of Social Development's priorities. We hear of 91% grants paid, but read reports and messages from the civil society and the public that tell a completely different story. We watch harrowing scenes of people stampeding post offices and SASSA offices from 5 a.m. only to be told they will not be served because only 45 people will be served on that day. This has been a daily reality for thousands who have no choice but to subject themselves to this demeaning and inhumane treatment just to put food on their tables. One of Parliament's duties is to ensure that laws it makes are implemented. Last year, the Social Development Portfolio Committee processed the Social Assistance Amendment Bill, which was subsequently signed into law by the President and was a part response to the North Gauteng High Court's order calling for the comprehensive legal solution to the foster care crisis 10 years ago. Everyone welcomed this piece of legislation. We looked forward to offering some reprieve for orphans children who would be given a top-up grant to the child support grant. Little did we know that the Department and Treasury would effectively decide to deny further access to the foster care grant for relatives caring for orphans in anticipation of the new child support grant top-up, replacing the use of the foster care grant for this category of children. Yet they have not put the child support grant top-up in place. This is regressive action for a very vulnerable group of children and is constitutionally not permissible. These decisions are bizarre at best and morally indefensible at worst. They are punitive to the very children we are supposed to protect and those who care for them. We demand that Treasury amends this budget to address these challenges, as the backlog in the foster care saga is far worse than anyone can imagine and is set to continue. Children remain in the receiving end of an uncaring government that takes decisions that do not have their best interest at heart. Children's rights are enshrined in our constitution and in law. If we treat children with disdain, how can we possibly believe that future generations will be well-balanced, well-developed, and well-rounded? It just isn't possible. Chairperson, it will be interesting to see how South Africa responds to the latest requirement from the UN Committee on Rights of the Child. They have called on government to provide information on measures taken to, and I quote, increase the child support grant in view of growing unemployment and poverty. They further call for measures to ensure that children without birth certificates can also access the grant. The ANC will have to provide a response to this question in its next report to the UNCRC, which is due by February 2022. Given the pressure to increase the value of the child support grant, it will be hard for the government to justify its failure to the UNCRC, let alone explain the real decline in the value of the grant. The world will be watching. Chairperson, with the reference to 6 million SRD grants recipients who have no way of feeding their families because of persistently high levels of unemployment, I repeat my recent comment. It is ludicrous that this ANC government has decided to pay monthly cash bonuses to civil servants, but refuses to prioritize protecting the most vulnerable citizens during a pandemic. Starving South Africans have had an uphill battle to get their grants since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The 350 grant is no exception to this. DSD needs foresight and determination to plan ahead, or this spiraling crisis of poverty and hopelessness will be its legacy. As the Democratic Alliance, we will not waver in our fight for the poor and vulnerable. That is what responsible governments are supposed to do. Thank you, Slalo.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I will now call upon Honorable Aris from the EFF.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The EFF rejects the proposed budget for the Vote 19 social development. On the 28th of May, activists will embark on a program to raise awareness on hunger all over the world. In South Africa, there's no need to raise hunger challenges on the 28th of May. Everywhere we look, there is hunger. There is no effort to eradicate hunger. Instead, hunger is made permanent in South Africa. More than 70% of households in informal settlements are skipping meal or eating one meal per day because they cannot afford food. 14 million people in South Africa go to bed hungry, and there is no practical or believable plan by the ruling party to bring this catastrophic tragedy to an end. The Department of Social Development is the embodiment of a collapse of social services meant to be the buffer for our poor people. This is made worse by National Treasury's austerity policy that is implemented without scientific guidance. This misguided austerities and the mismanagement of social assistance programs threaten the livelihood of 4.1 million elderly people, more than 900,000 people living with disabilities, 13.8 million children, 167,000 living with disability, and more than 220,000 children who depend on these grants. The 35.8 billion budget cut is a crime against humanity. This decision to end the 350 Rand SRD grant is another crime. This money was the difference between going to bed hungry and a meal for millions of South Africa. Today, we stand here to make an explicitly clear that only practical way forward for South Africa is the introduction of a basic income grant for all who qualifies. This is long overdue. This is humane. And this is the only way to ensure that everyone has basic needs to survive. This is why we cannot introduce a basic income grant at 350 Rand. It must be introduced by 1,500. This is the only way we will have food on the table for all our people. The queues we see at post office and SASSA offices around the country is shameful, and we subject our people to such inhumane conditions to access services. Our people have to wake up in the middle of the night to access their grants. Women and children are raped and violated, queuing for grants. This is very shameful. The fraud and corruption of food parcels during the COVID-19 by members of the ruling party is a shame, but true reflection of their ill intentions towards the poor. The fraud and corruption in the payment of SASSA and post office in the card system escalated without any plan or response. The reality is that SASSA cards are in the wrong hands. We are told that the cleaning tender of 45.8 million of SASSA office in the Eastern Cape is nothing but a ruling party fundraising strategy and to create jobs for PELS. Chairperson, we must say the level of malnutrition has increased, and many of our children who used to benefit from meals at the ECD centers that were forced to be closed during lockdown are left without no option. While some ECD centers have opened, many ECD centers could not open without assistance. People living with disabilities in this country continue to be shamed as if their disability is optional. When they protest and going to apply for grants, the government responds in violence and water cannon. This is disgraceful. Lastly, it is shameful that more than 8,800 social workers, graduates remain unemployed when South Africa is troubled with many social ills. We should be deploying these graduates to schools, informal settlements, rural areas, and all townships. The fact that the only consideration for the decision as to whether the government will employ the unemployed social worker graduates is whether Treasury say there is money or not, is the reason why the country is facing many challenges. It is disgraceful that we are made to decide between the well-being of our people and austerities. The EFF rejects this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now call upon the Honourable Van der Merwe from the IFP. Honourable Member, your time starts now.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development. The plans and funds we are debating today is a lifeline to millions of South Africans. It is the lifeline to many poor children surviving on a school meal alone. It is the lifeline to grandmothers providing for their families. And it is the lifeline to many NGOs assisting the vulnerable. On the 5th of May, 2020, the Mercury newspaper led with the following headline, and I quote, KZN poor starve, food hampers sold, stolen by officials. As South Africa found itself in the grip of a COVID-19 pandemic, this is a story that repeated itself in almost all provinces. Now, a year later, we have yet to see any ruling party official doing hard time in jail for stealing food parcels or any official being held to account for unlawfully collecting the 350 Rand COVID grant. Considering that this department's funds stand between life and death for many, this is simply unforgivable. Chairperson, the reality is that when this department fails, there are dire consequences for the most vulnerable. These dire consequences were seen in my constituency recently when a family lost their grandmother due to COVID-19. Their sole source of income disappeared overnight. The children were left with a family member and uncle who abused them. the family could not access a social worker. While a war rages against the most vulnerable in our communities, 5,000 social workers trained by the state are sitting at home. This despite a 2018 cabinet resolution that instructed government ministers to employ these trained social workers. We must ask ourselves why a so-called caring government would not act on its own commitment, knowing that these 5,000 social workers could have stood in defense of the vulnerable children on the killing fields of the gangster-ridden Cape Flats. These social workers are needed in the fight against substance abuse, and they are needed to protect the many women and children affected by abuse and gender-based violence. Substance abuse, gender-based violence, and gangsterism are critical areas of focus this department is making little to zero progress on. But Chairperson, the dire consequences of this department's failures can be seen in an ECD sector on the verge of collapse. It can be seen in the foster care crisis, which is coupled by an adoption crisis. It can be seen in acute malnutrition, which is now a leading cause of death among South Africa's children. It can be seen in the painfully long SASSA queues, where the elderly and vulnerable are forced to sleep on cold pavements, waiting for a little bit of government help. It can be seen in the budget cuts that are paralyzing NGOs. And it is seen in the desperation of the eyes of those who cannot now access the disability grant they once relied on or those still waiting to be paid their 350 Rand grant. Honourable Minister, the IFP acknowledges that your department has many hardworking individuals. We wish to thank you together with your DM, the ADG, and every official who seeks to serve our people. I also wish to thank my fellow colleagues on the Portfolio Committee, because together, I believe, we speak in one voice for the vulnerable. However, Honourable Minister, we need you to do more in defence of the poor. Firstly, resolve the non-payment, late payment and subsidy cuts to NPOs and NGOs who provide vital services on behalf of the state. Stop playing with the lives of the vulnerable and finalise a budget allocation with Treasury for the Child Support Top-Up Grant and for reinstating the 350 Rand grant. We need you, Minister, to act urgently to ensure the 2018 Cabinet Resolution on the employment of social workers is implemented without delay. Minister, you must clamp down on fraud and corruption, especially by your own officials and especially at SASSA. Those officials must rot in jail. We need food vouchers to be implemented without delay. Shelters, which are vital in the fight against gender-based violence, remain underfunded, and your department must therefore finalise the intersectoral policy without further delay. Officials that discourage or willfully delay adoption processes within your department must be held to account. Chairperson, for the most vulnerable, our country is an unforgiving place to live in. South Africa is now a welfare state where 18.3 million South Africans has had their hopes and dreams replaced by a SASSA grant alone. For them, for the vulnerable, we must therefore support this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now call upon Honourable Denner from the Freedom Front Plus. Honourable Member, your time starts now.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Chairperson, this department and its entities have had to scale Mount Everest during this past year. We're all aware of that. We're a developing country with many challenges. Challenges that have led to several frustrations with all this department has had to deliver. We also believe that there are good people within this department and its entities, but that these good, honest, hardworking people are often left to fend for themselves, overworked, picking up slack because others do not do what they are supposed to. We also understand that the good these people try to do cannot filter down the ranks by their sheer willpower alone. We commend these people and their efforts. You are seen and appreciated. My colleague, Honourable Breed, has relied heavily on you, as I am sure other colleagues have also done during this time. This does not, however, give the department and its entities a get-out-of-jail-free card for all the mistakes, AGSA findings and worries South Africans have had to deal with when it comes to social development within South Africa. Our acknowledgement of the challenges and successes this department and its entities have had should in no way be seen as an agreement with the way the ANC government chooses to run the department by refusing to listen to sound logic and address the real issues of poverty and hunger within the country. We do not agree that South Africa should be a welfare state as it currently is. It is unsustainable to have more than 25 million South Africans reliant on some sort of government grant. Grants are not the answer to South Africa's poverty problems. The Minister herself recently said that should the COVID SRD grant that has been paid up until April be made permanent or even extended, it will be unsustainable because there is no money left to pay for more extensions. And she's correct, because if we don't grow the economy and encourage and enable employment creation, where will we get the money to pay for these grants? She also said that if we do not extend the grant, that people will riot and South Africa will not be able to recover from that. But who drove people to riot? Who taught the people that by burning and breaking, success can be achieved? Who taught the people that frustration needs to be voiced through violence? Was it not former President Nelson Mandela that in 1993 at the COSATU conference said, if the ANC government does to you what the apartheid government did to you, then you must do to the ANC government what you did to the apartheid government. This ANC government that are now dumbstruck by these acts of violence. This ANC government has proven that it is not a responsible government. You should take action rather than hiding behind the past. Take action against the entities that do not perform. Rather than blaming the past, take action against cadres, comrades, and family that are found guilty of fraud, corruption, double dipping, and all other charges. Chairperson, the piloting of SASSA's electronic application system for most grants and the online portal to book a doctor's appointment for the disability grant should be made mention of. It is something that, on paper, is a step in the right direction towards cutting the queues at SASSA
Honourable
offices.
member,
This
your
will
time-
also, hopefully,
Honourable
cut
member,
out.
your time has
Yes, Chair.
expired.
Chairperson, I have 5 minutes.
Oh, my
If
apologies. I continue. I'll give you your extra time.
Thank you, Chairperson. This will also hopefully cut out visits to those offices, such as the Pretoria Church Street office, where people are treated without dignity and respect and sent back 3, 4, 5, up to 8 times because, for example, the bank statement did not have that specific day's date stamp on, but the previous days. This is a real example, and there are many, many more. That being said, the South African reality is somewhat more challenging for this system. South Africa's literacy rate has dropped 7% according to the last known statistics. The majority of South Africa is quite rural and access to internet is poor. Many people still do not have access to internet, be it a smartphone, home computer, or even internet cafe. Our SASSA grant holders are unfortunately those that are impacted most by these factors. SASSA has promised to train staff in assisting people with the online system, but the reality is that SASSA is already short-staffed, and a series of other questions also arise. The NDA will most probably be thrown into the ring as an option, but its assistance to date has been non-existent, and questions arise about this system and its feasibility. Chair, I've not even skimmed the surface of the issues and questions we are faced with on a daily basis, but I conclude with this remark. Because of cadre deployment, corruption, and skewed priorities, the Department of Social Development, SASSA, and the National Development Agency are not currently effecting the change that is necessary to create a better future in our country. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now call upon Honourable Sukas from the ACDP.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The ACDB rises in this budget debate in solidarity with our communities on the Cape Flats that has experienced an escalated wave of gang violence in the ongoing turf wars, making our streets unsafe for our women, youth, and our children. I would like to invite Minister of Social Development, Honourable Lindiwe Zulu, to accompany me to the gang-ravaged communities of Hillview and Lavender Hill, where the body count week on week resembles a low-intensity civil war. The ACDP is deeply concerned by the low budgeting and expenditure on the sub-program social crime prevention and victim empowerment over the last 3 years. We need to work with the department to develop programs that specifically targets the crises in our communities on the Cape Flats. There is a crucial need for us to seriously evaluate the impact of the social protection programs. How effective are they, and are we spending money where there can be tangible results? What is given priority in the budget, given the fact that we have serious violent crimes specifically affecting our children in the Western Cape? We have received countless calls for help, Minister, this week. Please come with me and witness the damage being done to the psyche of our women, youth, and our children. Over the last year, the ACDP have been working with child activists and communities at large who have repeatedly called for a unified approach to the issues facing children. Poverty has increased food insecurity, malnutrition, and the safety of our children. We need an update on when the Office of the Rights of the Child will be moved to the presidency. Second to that, we need an update on the establishment of the interministerial committee responsible to ensure children's rights are prioritized across departments. It is our view that there is a focus on writing laws, but no real focus on ensuring that the mechanisms are in place to facilitate the well-being of our children. This department must and can be the champion in developing a pathway for healthier children physically, emotionally, and mentally. There has to be in-depth engagement with all interest groups over the rest of this term to promote children's well-being. Chairperson, because we are facing a crisis. At this current rate, our children are going to become parents trapped in another cycle of generational poverty and all the evils that come with that. The department must provide Parliament with a clear plan on how they will change the manner their offices function with at-risk children. Without this, this department will become part of the dysfunction that threatens the well-being of children, something I really do not want to see happening. The Department of Social Development is experiencing budget cuts across all its programs. Efficiency in monitoring and evaluating expenditure is critical for this department to regain credibility. And we cannot afford failures to its core mandate of alleviating.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time has expired. I now call upon Honorable Kwankwa from the UDM. Honorable Kwankwa from the UDM. If the member is not here, member from the ATM. The member is not here. I now call upon Honorable Abrams from the Democratic Alliance. Honorable member, your time starts now.
Thank you, House Chairperson. UNICEF's three main challenges for a South African child are: 1, more than half the children in South Africa live below the poverty line. 2, 1/3 of girls experience some form of violence before the age of 18. And 3, 2/3 of children eligible for early childhood development programs do not have access to them. These concerns are the lived realities for the vast majority of children in South Africa. It is unfortunate, Chair, that these concerns are not shared by the Department of Social Development or the ruling government for that matter. If it were, budget cuts to DSD would be protected at all costs. If it was a concern, budget cuts to sub-program 5, Children, and 7, Social Crime Prevention and Victim Empowerment would not see a cut of 27.12% and 58.3% respectively. The DA has long been advocating for the child support grant to have more meaningful impact and to be in line with the lower poverty food line of $585 per month, despite academic research outlining the value of investing in children and that the child support grant contributes 63% to the capita income of the poorest 30% of households. The ANC has cut the child support grant budget by 14.5 billion. In 2018-19, some 806 children died in public hospitals and clinics from severe acute malnutrition. In other words, children are literally starving to death. In 1999, South Africa's stunting rate was 25%. 20 years on, and the rate is now 27%, a clear indicator that the ANC government has made no effort at all. Suffer little children. Program 4, Welfare Services, has seen the biggest program cut of 28.77%. I would like to remind this House that it is within this program, sub-program 7, as mentioned earlier, where funding for GBV victims is located, remembering that 1/3 of girls experience violence before the age of 18. The Minister and Department cannot absolve itself from its obligation to ensure protection for victims by delegating services to NGOs without funding them properly, especially since the Department's transfer subsidy to NGOs is cut by 8.9 million this financial year. Suffer little children. 2/3. The ECD sector faced many red tape obstacles, with the latest being the late and non-payment of the Presidential Employment Stimulus Fund for ECD practitioners, which was meant to be paid by the 31st of March. While the provincial social development departments are meant to disburse these stipends, the minister has an obligation and duty as minister to ensure the MECs comply. It is reported that only 8% of ECD practitioners have been paid. Is this true, Minister? What do the numbers look like? The ECD sector has been engaged the Minister since 8th of April, and I too am awaiting a response to written questions. For many, this relief is what stands between the children accessing an ECD or being part of the growing 2/3 majority. Suffer little children. In conclusion, Chair, ensuring children do not starve is not a case of financial ability, but a matter of political will. And there is no better investment for South Africa than in our children. If you choose not to, as the ANC has done for the last 27 years, you erode that child's potential and economic prospects, which drives intergenerational cycle of poverty at a huge cost to all South Africans and the South African economy as we see today. Suffer little children. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I shall now call on the Honourable Mahlaule to continue chairing the debate on Vote 19, Social Development. Honourable Mahlaule, I hand over to you now. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. We shall proceed. We now call upon Honourable Bilankulu from the ANC.
Mutshami wa xitulu vachaviseki hinkwerhu maAfrika-Dzonga hinkwerhu n'wina lava mi tshikeke mitirho ya n'wina ku ta tshama emahlweni ka xigila mikhuva ku yingisela minjhekanjhekisano leyi yaka emahlweni ya mphakelo ya swa timali ku ya hi tindzawulo hi ku hambanahambana ka tona. Ndza mi losa, avuxeni. The ANC rises in support of Budget Vote 19. We do so because the ANC continues to advance a social policy that is fundamental to ensuring that all South Africans enjoy a decent standard of living. Our core approach in this regard is to improve human capabilities and ensure equal opportunities. This is aligned to program of development outlined in the ANC social welfare policy. The ANC, through its policies, continues to argue and advocate for a developmental approach to the country's social welfare program. This development social welfare program advocates for the attainment of basic social welfare rights for all South Africans through a just and effective social delivery system that redresses the past imbalances and advocates for the empowerment of individuals, families, and communities. Central to the developmental social welfare approach is it call for the integration of social and economic development of our people. This is what the ANC is advocating, and we will ensure that we continue to support the portfolio approach of developing our people out of the social assistance system into self-reliant and empowerment. This means that we are collectively working to ensure that there is a fundamental shift in the work of the department from being social welfare oriented to one that empowers our people and communities out of poverty to be self-reliant and economically empowered. Honorable Chairperson, we are concerned about the adjustment in the budget. This downwards adjustment affects programs and sub-programs in the votes that are meant to facilitate the advancement of developmental social welfare. It is also a challenge because it hampers service delivery. The ability of the portfolio to address inequality, income deprivation, and the lack of skills and economic opportunities among the majority. This will also have an impact on the full realization and effective implementation of government social policy because of lack of resourcing. This also impacts the ability of the social expenditure of this budget to advance economic development, as social policy must be aligned to economic development. A central part of delivering a developmental social welfare is a contingent of capacitated and capable social workers working in a conducive environment that enables them to thrive. The reduction in the budget of the department has significantly affected Program 4 on welfare service policy development and implementation support. The decrease in from 1.8 billion in 2020-21 to 1.3 billion in the 2021-22 financial year. This decline is driven by a reduction in allocation to, among other, social worker scholarship sub-programs. This is a concern because it affects key deliverables, such as increasing the number of social workers. Equally, we are deeply concerned about the high rate of unemployed social workers. Moreover, there has not been an allocation to the social worker employment grant from 2020 till 2024. There is also a tremendous decline in the allocation of social worker scholarships. The functions of scholarships has been redirected to provinces as per the agreement with National Treasury. Furthermore, we note with deep concern at the low absorption rates of social worker graduates, and this happens against the background of our unhappiness of there being no budget to permanently employ social worker graduates. We affirm our support to the committee's recommendation, which requests the minister to ensure a prioritization of an impact study on the implications and impact of budget reduction over the medium-term period and develop necessary interventions. This impact study and necessary interventions are particularly significant as they have an impact on resource allocation to the social programs. This is of particular interest because we must be able to measure this allocation against yielding social investment that enhance the economic participation of the poor and vulnerable. The National Development Agency continues to assist cooperatives with access to markets through the Department of SASSA. This assistance is a tool for job creation and the promotion of sustainable livelihoods. We welcome the steps that are going to be taken by the NDA to improve program implementation by instituting monitoring mechanism to enable economic evaluation of the growth and impact of cooperatives. We are extremely concerned about the annual decline of the budget of NDA, which is largely due to the program of CSO development. This concern is raised because the NDA has and continues to invest significantly resources in income, generating projects that seek to create alternative or complementary income streams and employment for poor households. This vote indicates the measures that are going to be implemented in the provision of support to beneficiaries of the social protection system. This will be in the form of linking beneficiaries with employment opportunities, skills development, bursaries, internship programs, and entrepreneurial programs, such as helping them to form cooperatives and small businesses. All poor communities will be targeted with a specific focus on the poorest areas in the country. One of the implementing agents will, through the district development model that is spearheaded by the presidency. The ANC urges all beneficiaries of social protection to embrace the programs, plans, and initiatives meant to link them with sustainable livelihood opportunities. We will closely monitor the development and progressive implementation of an exit strategy for public employment programs. These are meant to ensure that the poor, marginalized, and vulnerable are linked to public employment opportunities. We also welcome the conducting of the evaluation of existing sustainable livelihood opportunities to determine the extent of impact. SASSA continues to provide developmental opportunities to beneficiaries focusing primarily government assistance. This includes linking social grant beneficiaries to developmental opportunities through existing relationships between the department and the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Chairperson, departments are also required to develop, implement, support, and monitor programs for equitable job creation, representation, and ownership by women, youth, and persons with disabilities. They must also expand access to finance, incentives, and opportunities for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, including those in the informal sector. In this case, the department towards this deliverable by increasing the absorption of social workers and expand social services professionals, pay social grants, lead graduate to economic opportunities, and continue to support NPOs and cooperatives. As a social protection safety net for the poor and vulnerables, the expanded public works continues to create meaningful opportunities. In this current financial year, 26,400 EPWP work opportunities will be created through DSD programs. Furthermore, 20,000 social protection beneficiaries linked to livelihood opportunities. Honorable members, we welcome the renewed interest in the basic income grant as another avenue to drive employment opportunities and sustainable livelihood. We have to raise the standard of living and the quality of life of all South Africans. The developmental social welfare approach that seeks to progressively move the millions of South Africans out of the welfare into the economy is a bold yet significant step. We have to find positive, productive, and sustainable ways to ensure that our people are employed or our employers. Alternative, proactive, and sustainable ways must be explored and implemented to facilitate this. The path that we have taken to link beneficiaries to economic opportunities and sustainable livelihood will ensure that we empower beneficiaries to lift themselves out of poverty while creating an adequate social net to protect the most vulnerable in our society. The ANC support budget vote 19, and happy Africa Day to all viewers. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I will now call upon Honorable Sibisi from the NFP. Honorable Sibisi. Honorable Sibisi, can you unmute?
Thank you, House Chair. Can I speak without my video?
Yes.
Honorable House Chair, the Department of Social Development remains one of the critical departments in assisting our problem from the albatross imposed onto our people by COVID-19. Earlier this year, President Ramaphosa announced a 3-month extension of the much contested 350 COVID-19 grant per month for the unemployed who do not receive any social grant or unemployable benefits. There is no doubt that this grant has assisted many of our people, but we need to ascertain to what extent it has made an impact. It would be in the best interest of government to conduct an analysis to identify the shortcomings that our people were still experiencing as beneficiaries of the 350 grant. More than 4 million people received the social relief of distress grant over the past year. Up to 2.2 million approved grants are yet to be paid. A further 1.4 million grants approved on appeal are also yet to be dispersed. Given the constrained budget of the department, has the department made any concessions regarding the outstanding 3.6 million payments to be paid out for the 350 grant? We would be doing our people injustice if we did not mention the incapacity of the Department of Social Development through SASSA and the minister's lack of actions against it. Our people had to be subjected to inhuman conditions, standing in line, waiting for the 350 grants to be paid out. Why do our people always have to be subjected to incapacity of government officials and departments on the premises that this government has made? We can accept the 25.5 billion downward adjustment of the budgets. However, poverty is most likely going to increase without the relief grant. Recently, government bowed to trade union pressures and tabled a salary adjustment and cash bonus for public servants. Public servants had their trade unions bargaining and fighting on their behalf to achieve this. But who is fighting and bargaining for the poor, Honorable House Chair? Who is collectively bargaining for the poor in this disastrous economy where over 42% of the people is unemployed? If we include that discouraged work seekers, it takes the threat of a strike for government to give in to the demands of wage increments. Meanwhile, hunger strikes daily for many of our people. We can all agree that the 350 relief grant was a joke, but it made a difference to some, and we cannot dispute this. The question we should be asking government is government not exacerbating inequality and poverty by somehow finding funds to increase public servant wages and give them a cash bonus of 978 accompanied by 1.5% wage increment, but only give
Thank you very much,
unemployed
Honorable Member. Thank you very much, Honorable
we
Swisi.
support the budget vote 9. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now call upon Honorable Hendricks from Al Jama.
Apology for the video, Honorable Chairman. Honorable House Chair, Al Jama supports this budget because under the leadership of the Minister, we have seen that the promise made by President Ramaphosa in his first State of the Nation address, where he said that everyone will have a warm plate of food, is coming to light. And many people now have a warm plate of food because of the innovation and creativity of the Minister. However, the Minister cannot do everything on her own, and that's why we are very happy that the Department of Labor, Department of Basic Education, and some other departments are helping in one way or another to put a warm plate of food on everyone's table. However, we'd like to ask the Minister to develop a much stronger relationship with NGOs and also with the religious communities like the Jewish communities, the Muslim community, Christian communities, Hindu communities, who go out of their way to feed the poor. And there needs to be some research done and coordination so that the footprint of the Minister can be increased to feed the poor and to feed poor children. And Al Jama therefore supports this budget, but also asks the Minister, maybe she must capacitate the 400 constituency officers of the members of Parliament, where they take Parliament to the streets. And obviously, when they take Parliament to the streets, they can see the need for feeding. So the Minister needs to do all that coordination, and we wish her everything of the best for the next year and to keep up the hard work of putting a warm plate of food on every South African table where it is needed. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Our next speaker will be Honourable Opperman from the Democratic Alliance.
Agbare voorsitter, hierdie virtualiteit laat ons soms ver verwyderd van die realiteit en die harde werklikheid op die grond. Die mense van Honneklipbaai, Loeriesfontein, Lepelsfontein en Klipfontein het nie SASSA kantore of betaalpunte nie. Dit kos die SASSA begunstigde R1,200 vervoer Springbok toe of R700 Garries toe om daai karige pensioen te kan trek. Spoegrivier se mense moet R800 spoeg, want motorkarre loop mos nie op water nie. Subatsfontein se mense moet Subat vir 'n geleë na Kleinsee, want ook daar is nie SASSA betaalpunte nie. Maak jou somme, R1,890 minus R1,200 vervoer krag, klerasie, kos, die doodgenootskap, data en munisipale dienste. Gebrek aan SASSA-dienste belas die weerloostes slegs meer en hou hulle in 'n ewige wurggreep van armoede, hongerte en swaar kry. Waar is ons bring dienste nader aan die mense nou? R30 verhoging in die toelaag van bejaardes en diegene wie met gestremdhede lewe, beteken R1 'n dag by die toelaag. R10 by die kindertoelaag is 33 sent per dag. Waar is die enigste party wat kamptig omgee vir die armes nou? Ken jy die hartseer van die R460 kindertoelaag? Voor jy hom nog in jou hande het, is hy minder. In Loeriesfontein trek jy geld by die enigste ATM in die dorp. Standard Bank vat R30 bankkoste en jy het net R430. Die DA pleit vir beskerming van staatstoelaag. Hoekom kan daar nie kwytskelding op bankkoste op SASSA-toelaag wees nie? 'n verdere 15% BTW word by die winkels aan kos, klere en elektrisiteit afgestaan. So in werklikheid kry 'n SASSA-begunstigde nooit die volle waarde van hulle toelaag nie. Al hoe meer mense staan deesdae in die welsynsry en statistieke bereken dat ons teen Maart volgende jaar meer as 18,8 miljoen SASSA-begunstigdes sal hê, terwyl 31% van die bevolking reeds op maatskaplike ondersteuning is. Laat ek dit pertinent stel. Die DA is onapologeties gekant teen die snoei van maatskaplike ondersteuningsprogramme en 100% vir inflasiegebonde verhogings van maatskaplike toelaag. Nie die onverdedigbaar en onverskoonbare 1% verhoging wat die ANC tans gee. Die DA se alternatiewe begroting sou 'n totale verhoging van 30,1 miljard begroot het vir maatskaplike toelaas oor 3 jaar. Die realiteit is, tensy nuwe werksgeleenthede nie geskep word en ekonomiese groei nie plaasvind nie, word die toelaasstelsel soos dit huidiglik daaruit sien, onvolhoubaar en volg besnoeiings. Ons probleem tans is te min groei en te veel skuld. Hoe meer staatsskuld ons het, hoe minder geld is daar vir pro-arm programme soos SASSA en die Nasionale Ontwikkelingsagentskap. Dit beteken minder spandering op maatskaplike ondersteuningsprogramme. Die pynvolle realiteit is die hoeveelheid geld wat ons tans spandeer op staatsskuld is meer as die maatskaplike ontwikkeling en gesondheidsbegroting saam. Lyk 'n regering wie omgee so? Die Nasionale Ontwikkelingsagentskap se primêre doel is die vermindering van armoede, werkloosheid en ongelykheid. Waar is die agentskap as amper 2 in 4 mense nie werk het nie? 55,5% van alle Suid-Afrikaners onder die broodlyn lewe en 12 miljoen mense nie toegang het tot voldoende voedsame kos nie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. We'll now move to the next speaker, who is Honorable Stock from the ANC. Honorable Stock.
Please unmute, Chairperson.
I'm unmuted.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, members of the Portfolio Committee, members of Parliament, South Africa at large, all protocols observed. The ANC rises in support of this budget vote, Honorable Chairperson. But I think first and foremost, I need to put into perspective one issue as a point of departure in my participation in today's debate. I think honorable members came to the fore from different political perspectives, and then it looks like they want to blame the ANC cadre development policy for part of and most of the problems that persist at SASSA, NDA, and so forth. So I want to characterize such an approach in today's debate as a mere desperation of the highest order, and also as political posturing. And then to a large extent, I also want to characterize such an approach as an approach to play into the gallery to a large extent. And I'm raising this because I'm of the view, and as the ANC also in the Portfolio Committee, we have been consistent and we're on record as highlighting the problems that persist at SASSA, whether it's from the performance of the department with regards to the Auditor General's report, the fraudulent activities that happens at SASSA, payment of grants, and some officials that are actually part of the problems that persist at SASSA. As the ANC, we have been on record and condemning the department and also working hand in hand with the department to find an amicable solution to resolve the problems that are there. We have not taken an approach as the ANC to stand by side or across the road to blame it alone on the department without providing a solution to the department. Now, the ANC cadre development policy with regards to, in particular, the Department of Social Development, I want to bring just one issue to the fore in today's debate. This department of SASSA is led by a credible women, as well as the entities also at SASSA. SASSA, I mean, an NDA. Meta Monzobe at NDA, a very credible female, of course, which we hold in high regard, as well as SASSA. And then the department is led by a female minister, deputy minister, as well as the department is also led by an acting DG in the name of Mr. Linton Mkulu, very energetic, very qualified, and a seasoned bureaucrat. So I don't see, in terms of my own view, where we can blame it on the ANC development, cadre development policy. So my advice as I move forward to this debate is to advise all honorable members who participated in today's debate that join us as the ANC, join us in working together with the department, the minister, deputy minister, and the team to resolve the problems that are there at SASSA. We are not shying away as the ANC and then trying to create an impression that everything is well at the department. There are a number of problems. So we are calling upon honorable members to join us as we will be resolving the problems that are there. We do so because as the ANC, because we have undertaken to build a socially inclusive society, we are also fulfilling an undertaking to ensure that most of the challenges that are facing our ordinary people on the ground in terms of challenges of poverty, underdevelopment, and unemployment, all the challenges are actually being resolved. This portfolio is central to the advancement of human development and progress, as it underpins the centrality of our people as a fundamental resource to the development of the economy and the nation. The ANC has argued that to arrive at this United Nation in keeping up with the advancement of an egalitarian society, the dictum that the poor will always be with us should be rejected, as poverty is created by society and it can therefore be eliminated by society. In advancing our transformation program, human development, and addressing the triple challenges in our society, since the advent of our democracy, the ANC-led government has continued to put in measures that provide a social safety net for most of our vulnerable people, and has also put in measures that ensure that the household are able to access opportunities through the outcome of their sustainable livelihoods and the eradication of absolute poverty. In continuing to address this and create pathways of development and transformation, in this current administration, which is the sixth administration, we have committed to advance the social transformation through the maintenance and expansions of our social security system to protect the vulnerable and reduce poverty. Honorable Chairperson, over the last financial year, the social development portfolio has been able to progressively advance the commitment through socio-economic relief measures to protect those that were severely impacted by COVID-19. This has resulted in an expected decrease in the social grant budget following the cessation of the social assistance for the COVID-19 pandemic in the 2020-2021 financial year, wherein an additional of 32.8 billion was allocated. Furthermore, the extension of the 350 grant till the end of April led to a further allocation of 2.8 billion, which has been actually reprioritized. This reprioritization contributed to the cabinet-approved reduced funding of the social grants budget. The provision of social income support to the poor and vulnerable is central to addressing poverty, underdevelopment, inequality, and unemployment. Grant beneficiaries are expected to increase from 18.2 million in 2020-21 to 19.3 million in 2023-2024. This means that annually there will be approximately 300,000 additional beneficiaries which are going to be dependent on grants. This must be understood against the background of cabinet-approved reductions. This situation is unsustainable as it will lead to grant amounts being reduced to cover the growing number of beneficiaries, of which only a portion of the growing number will be covered. We therefore call upon the entire portfolio to ensure that this is progressively implemented, and then the programs that link social grant beneficiaries to development are actually bearing fruits in terms of economic opportunities to our people. The developmental social welfare pathway must start transitioning beneficiaries out of the dependence of the welfare system into the economy, and also urge the department to revert back to the community on the planned timeframe that will be needed to conduct an impact assessment of the budget adjustments, and therefore also at a later stage be able to identify the interventions that would need to be implemented. In order to ensure that we systematically advance the social delivery system to be effective, equitable, and also just, we welcome the progress that has been done by the committee to provide a comprehensive legal solution to the foster care grant system. We are also busy with the amendment on the Children's Amendment Act, and a second part of this legal solution is also under consideration by the Portfolio Committee. We are learning a lot of other approaches, and we also appreciate the inputs of South Africans on the bills, as well as having the courage to share their different views, experiences, and at times heart-wrenching lived experiences with us as a Portfolio Committee. We are concerned that the budget to implement the first legal solution, which is actually the social amendment bill, has been reprioritized. The bill is important. It will be able to enable a top-up to be given over and above the current child support grant of orphans and families and children in the child society, premised on a social delivery system that is effective, equitable, and just. Through the application of the theory of change that is underpinned by evidence-based and results-based methodologies, we will get to the stage where this portfolio, at a visibly huge rate, tangibly and qualitatively improves the standard of living of the majority of South Africans. The ANC supports Vote 19 of social development. I thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stock. Honorable members, I'm advised that the Minister saved 2 minutes of the time allocated to the executive. It therefore means that the Minister now has 12 minutes.
Wow.
I now call upon the Minister of Social Development. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I wish to sincerely thank all members who have supported this budget. And of course, even those who did not support it, we are in this together. We like it, we don't like it, we have to work together. And of course, Honorable Chair, the politics will play itself from time to time. I think that this is the South Africa that we're building, the South Africa that we want. And so I am pleased that we work in the manner in which we do, and particularly in the committee. I'm really grateful for the relationship that we have. And I'm very happy that the committee in particular keeps a hawk's eye on the work that we do. And I'm also thankful and grateful to the Chairperson's leadership in steering that relationship between ourselves as a department and the entities, as well as the portfolio committee. I also wish to thank them for the level of insight and continuous guidance and strict oversight from this committee. We have done quite well as a portfolio, taking into consideration the wisdom of this committee, and I hope that we will continue in the same way that we've been working, but of course ensuring that we respond to the issues that are raised by the portfolio committee, not only today, but respond to the issues that are raised by the portfolio committee every time we are called upon by the portfolio committee. Honorable Gungubele, we agree completely with you on the evidence-based approach and the need to continuously develop theories of change throughout our work. To this effect, we are developing a digital monitoring and evaluation system, which will assist us with the credible and real-time data to make evidence-based decisions and policies that speaks to the felt needs of our people. And we are also hoping, Honorable Gungubele, that what we are doing at national level will also find itself at a provincial and local level. Honorable Masango, with regards to increase or top up of the child support grant, we are at advanced stages in moving on this matter with the National Treasury, and we are confident that this matter will be addressed either in the adjusted budget or in the incoming financial year. We agree that this is an important initiative that will indeed enable us to reduce the burden on the foster care system. And here, I really would like to thank the department for the push that they've been making in ensuring that the debates with Treasury also are continuous. On foster care, we are working on addressing the issues around the backlogs and addressing the comprehensive social legal solutions, and the committee is working with us in this regard. Honorable Aries, Honorable Member will recall that we contributed substantively to addressing poverty, in particular hunger and malnutrition. Since the start of the pandemic, we provided over 11.6 million people, poor people, and well over R1 billion. And this is just the data we gathered. We know there is much more through our civil society and private sector partners. We even had to go to the National Treasury for additional funding in this regard. And I know, honorable members, that there's always been issues around food parcel, corruption, and local level and all that. I can assure you that we're doing our best to change where we need to in terms of the system that we use to make sure that nothing is lost in between. The ANC president allocated an unprecedented 500 billion towards social and economic relief measures against COVID-19. Yes, this has never been done in our history, and we are now working on the economic recovery and reconstruction plan. And of course, on the issues of the long queues, I get pained myself when I have to see people standing in those long queues for a very long time. But I'm sure the honorable members are aware of the presentations that we've made all the time in looking for better solutions. We even started a campaign called #Let'sEndQueues, which we piloted in the Western Cape. And as of yesterday, this campaign went national. We will eventually end queues so that we address the issues of dignity for our people. Since 11 May 2020, 10 million poor people applied for the SRD 350 grant without needing to stand in queues. We will use this experience and learning to automate and digitize our services. Well over 22 billion has already been paid to people who have, as the research has indicated, used this for basic essentials such as food. And Honorable Van der Merwe, it's always a pleasure to hear you. We have made the issue of payment of the late payment of NPOs a top priority at our engagement with provinces. We know the main issues relates to governance and compliance matters, and we are strengthening capacity building and additional campaign in this regard, working with all provinces and the NDA. With regards to strengthening of child protection services, members are aware of the amendment of the Children's Bill, which is currently being consulted through the public, and I did indicate this already in my speech. With regard to substance abuse, we are ushering in the new Central Drug Authority Board in the next few days, and we are confident that the leadership with their expertise will assist us in fighting this war. We are also implementing the anti-gangsterism strategy, to which we have already trained all provinces. And Honorable Secretary, I accept your invitation, and I will be taking the new CDA board member to the areas you mentioned, not only in Cape Town, but across the Republic. And indeed, this is a challenge that is affecting our young people and needs all of society to work together in addressing the scourge especially among our young people. I've also raised this with the MECs for social development to deal with this head on. I just really believe that the lessons that we learned during COVID-19 and the things that we were able to do to propel ourselves next to better service delivery, we are going to be able to use that opportunity. For me, it's a question of, did we learn something? And if we did learn something, what are we going to do about it? And I'm hoping that not only the portfolio committee or members of parliament will be looking at what we are doing, but for the public itself will have to hold us accountable, because we are the ones that are saying that we will use that opportunity to make the changes. I also, Chairperson, would like to wish everyone, all members and indeed citizens of our beloved country, South Africa and the continent, a happy Africa Day. And we say to all of you, aluta continua. Nani enihleli lapho enhlazatshe. Nani enihleli lapho kude kude, lapho nihleli khona. Siyacela ukuthi ni celebrate i-Africa Day. I-Africa Day ilanga lokuthi sizikhumbuze siyabantu abamnyama, ikakhulukazi ukuthi sivelaphi, siyaphi, sisebenze kanjani. Ngicela ukubonga abantu basekhaya enhlazatshe. Ngicela ukubonga omkhulu nogogo. Ngibonge ukuthi baye bazama ukuthi basitolerate nathi esikhathini esiningi ngoba asibonakali, asiveli, siyasebenza bantu bakithi, asilali ubusuku nemini, sisebenzela ukuthi impilo zenu zibe ngcono. Siphinde siniceleke kodwa ukuthi noma thina sisebenza kangaka, siyacela ukuthi nani nibonisane emakhaya ukuthi ningasebenza kangakanani, nibe nezingadi zenu, nibe nama-cooperatives wenu, nibe nebhizinesi zenu ezincane. Sikhona siyi-Department of Social Development because into esicabanga ukuthi imqoka kakhulu ukuthi nikwazi ukuzimela niyabantu. Mina nje ngila ngazi kahle ukuthi abantu abaningi ekhaya abalindeli ukukhongozela from ugovernment, balinde ukuthi ugovernment kube uye o-creator a conducive environment for them ukuthi basebenze, bakwazi ukuzikhulisa nabo. Ngiyalebuka.
Mandla. Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable members, you are reminded that the debate on justice and constitutional development budget vote, water and sanitation budget vote, and small business development budget vote will take place at 1400 hours on the virtual platform. That concludes the debate and the business of this virtual mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Long live
Amandla.
the chair.
Long live Chair.